Dennis, let's start with some of your background. You know, who are you? Why are you? What have you done, and what are you gonna do? Give us some background to stuff. I mean, we know some things that you used to be LAPD, used to be a motorcycle cop. You were head of the Police Protective League. You got two sons who are in LAPD. You're council member for 12 years out here in Woodland Hills area. You write the Raz and Rant article that goes on. That's enjoyable. You do that every 2 weeks. But who are you, and what are you going to become?
Well, what I'm going to become, I've already been. So I've done what I'm going to become. I've done that. But thank you, Johnny and Dennis and guests. I think we've got about 20 some people here tonight, and hopefully some more will join. Dennis, I'm a my little history of born in Los Angeles, California, raised in Hollywood, and educated local schools. Two sons, Chris and Eric. Chris is the captain with LAPD in charge of the training operations in the three police academies. And Eric, who we refer to as Easy, Eric Zine, he's a captain with Alaska Airlines, has a lovely, lovely life flying around everywhere. I mean, if you want to start over, I think being an airline captain is the way to go. He's got a surfboard he keeps in Hawaii, so he does surfing. He has a wonderful life. Chris is married to a school teacher. They got two children, a little boy, a little girl. So I'm a grandpa twice. Love the kids. I worked for the Herald Examiner, Herald Express, way back when. I was born in 1947, so that makes me like Dennis Bassi. I'm probably not maybe I don't know 76 years old. I say I'm 24 from 100. So I was born in 1947, August 1st, and I'm very proud of my age. I've worked for the Herald Express, Herald Examiner, LA Times, Chevron Oil Company. I joined the LAPD in 1968, and I continue with that organization to the current time. I'm still a level 1 reserve. So I did 33 years. When I got elected city council, I had to retire, but I stayed as a level 1 reserve. So I'm assigned to Topanga. I worked intelligence and fugitives and all kinds of assignments during that time. During my police career, I worked patrol, detectives, vice, intelligence, internal affairs, motors, worked the 84 Olympics. I'm looking forward to the next Olympics. I was there for the 84 Olympics, and here I'm going to be at the next Olympics that we have in the city of Los Angeles. So as a level 1 reserve, I have the full status of a police officer, and I do my patrol activities out at Topanga Division. What got me involved in law enforcement? I just want to do good. Somehow in my history, in my life, I just want to do good. I was a Boy Scout, and somehow I said, you know what, I want to be a police officer. And fortunately, we had a police officer who was a friend of the family, and I can remember as a child when he came over to the house in uniform in a police car, and I was just enthralled with that. Dragnet, Adam 12, all those things. Highway Patrol, Broderick Crawford. It stuck with me, and I have no regrets of my police career. Was a member of the Police Protective League. You're elected by the members of the police department, of the rank and file. So I was a union director, the vice president. I served 8 years there. Became a charter commissioner. I was elected to the city charter commission, helped write the city charter. I was the VP of the charter commission. People don't remember that we did have a charter commission. We wrote the city charter of Los Angeles. So I served 12 years in the city council. Who is the council member? I asked the people who are viewing tonight, who is your council member? Do you know your council member? Do you know how to get a hold of your council member? Do you know how to go directly to the council member and not go through staff? You call the office, you get through the system, you may have a deputy director that talks to you, but it's nice to know the council member themselves. When you see that member, you got a problem, because I was very, very connected to the community. Did community cleanups, formed a community posse, people organized for safe and secure environments. We went out and picked up the abandoned cars. We took homeless encampments, which there were a few, limited those. They didn't expect us to do a lot with it, but we did a lot, and we didn't have as many as they have today, which are totally out of control. I do radio for KBC Talk Radio, 790 KABC, and also I do the pursuits and law enforcement for Fox News and law enforcement related stories. So now the situation in California, Los Angeles, law enforcement and your safety, hiring, LAPD is hiring, CHP is hiring 1,000. LA County Sheriff's hiring 1,000. LAPD is trying to get to 500. They're having a very difficult time. People do not want to join law enforcement, a variety of reasons. I'll go into that later. Lack of resources. The city is short on resources. You call 911, you're going to wait. You call 311, you're going to wait. And I talked to the lieutenant in charge of communications division yesterday, and he said they are so short of dispatchers, people who dispatch the calls. They've got hundreds of openings. I don't know why people don't want these jobs in municipal government. They're good paying jobs, good benefits. but they are short of dispatchers, they're short of police officers, short of jailers. They are short of everyone that you can imagine. The new word for Los Angeles Police Department and police officers in general, it's not proactive, it's not catch the bad guy, it's not stop crime. The word now is de-escalate. The concept is de-escalate, defuse the situation. And oftentimes it doesn't work, sometimes it does work. Officers wear body cams, wear video. They look at that when a situation takes place, and they're now analyzing the tone of voice. The tone of voice of the officer. Was it aggressive? Was it hostile? Or was it very calm? Well, if you got a situation where you have to assert control, you're going to have to use an aggressive voice. If you're talking to a little kid, you're going to be very kind and nice. But if you're talking to an individual who's trying to commit a serious crime, it's called command presence. So that's an issue right now with the officers. Current crime stats, I don't know how many know, but you can look at the crime stats that are published by the Los Angeles Police Department. They are public record, and I pulled the crime stats. It's very simple to find. Citywide profile that gives a citywide profile within the city of Los Angeles. As of the 26th of August, they have 8,959 officers. Now, when I talk about 8,959, your concept would be an officer in a patrol car on patrol. But let me give you the reality of this, folks. 8,959 counts everyone from the chief of police, the command staff, the detectives, SWAT team, helicopter, etc. Every single body that is carrying a badge and a gun and employed by the Los Angeles Police Department active. That includes people who are sick, people injured on duty, people in training, people at school. 8,959 is the full count from the chief down to the recruit in the academy. So when you want to take out the people who are on vacation, the people who are injured on duty, the people who are in training, etc., you've got a far cry from 8,959. They do not exist. But when they give the number 8,959, it sounds good. But let's look at reality. When an officer's off sick, that detracts from that 8,959. There's officers off sick all the time. A woman gets pregnant. She's a police officer. She's off the pregnancy. She counts, but she's counts in the numbers, but she's not there. She's home recovering or having the baby, whatever the case may be. The bottom line is when you hear that number, 8,959, detract those people that aren't working. That's the true number of police officers that you have protecting the city of Los Angeles. It's a very, very small number for what we need to do to have this. Hold on a second. Let me take care of that phone. Okay, now let me give you a couple of statistics. Robbery in the city of Los Angeles. I'm going to compare the statistics of 21 to 23. Robbery in Los Angeles is plus 4.9%. Let's talk about burglary. Now, these are statistics varying from 21 to 23. Burglaries up 15.5%. Motor vehicle theft up 10%. Burglary from motor vehicle up 5.7%. Personal property theft, people losing their property. Okay, I just got bumped off there. People losing their property, personal property theft is up 41.5%. So what you have is a situation where crime's going up, and you can pull this out and find the statistics. It's called Citywide Profile, and it's available to the public. The statistics need to be recognized, and you need to see where you are in your particular community. But the Citywide Profile lists all those statistics, how many arrests, how many officers, et cetera. And I encourage people to do that. So when you hear a number, we're going to have 10,000 police officers. 10,000 sounds good, but how many are actually going to be on the streets in a black and white or on a police motorcycle? Then you're going to look at that and say, really? That's what we're talking about, the numbers. So the numbers are really frightening. Current move to add 10 council members. Let me talk about this. This is a joke and a half. When you talk about wasting taxpayers' money, you got 15 council members for the city of Los Angeles. Our population we know is reducing because people are moving out of Los Angeles. We don't need to add 10 council members. I estimate it's going to cost, when you think about city council chambers, if you've ever been there, it's not going to accommodate 10 more. So you got to renovate city council chambers. You got to add 10 more council offices. So you got to add offices downtown. Now you have to have district offices for these 10 new additional council members. Then you got to have staff, your district director, your community people that are going to be assigned to those. And when you add it all up, when you start out and saying, okay, it's not going to cost that much for 10 additional, it's going to cost what I estimate the build out with the facilities, et cetera, close to $1 billion that you're going to spend in taxpayers' money to add more council members. Absolutely ridiculous. How does the county run, the county of Los Angeles, with 88 cities in LA County, with 5 supervisors, and you've got to have all these people on the city council? Corruption at City Hall. We know about the people who were involved in corruption. Mark Ridley Thomas going to jail for 3.5 years. Current Price still facing charges. Ray Chan, Department of Water and Power, etc. There's been enough corruption with the 10 people, the 15 people we have. Homeless and the cost to everyone, financial and quality of life. Homeless is not getting resolved. They keep on coming back to you with more money, more money, more money. And all of you who've lived in the Valley for a long time, and I've lived here for a long time, your homeless population is not reducing. And now they're going to add an issue with voters' choice. A hotel, any hotel, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, if you have vacancies, you're going to have to give it to the homeless population. So I can see someone staying at the Marriott Hotel in Topanga Canyon, and they're spending $200 or $300 a night for a room, and next to them is a homeless person with their dog and their shopping cart. And what's going to happen? How are we going to exist with this kind of situation that the politicians in Los Angeles are pushing? Rants and Raves and City Watch. I do a column twice a month. It's called Rants and Raves, and I rant and I rave. And there's a lot more rants than raves because of the problems that I see. Metro, let's talk about the bus system. What a joke that system is as far as safety. They've got a former FBI agent in charge of the operations for safety. And all respect to the FBI, they have no idea what street crime is about. They have no idea what arrests are about on a street level. But they've got a lady who was an FBI agent who's the chief of their security at Metro. They want to start their own police agency. They had their own police agency. They disbanded, then merged with LAPD sheriffs in Long Beach. Now they want to start their own. We can't hire enough cops with the state highway patrol or the county sheriff, and they want to form their own police department. Some of these people who are in political office that come up with these wacko ideas need to really have their heads examined. If you have a Rolex watch, don't wear it, because if you have a Rolex watch, that's one of the items that people like to steal. We have the unarmed response. They have a thing called a circle 24/7. They want to have unarmed response to a number of calls. Well, as we know, tragically, a deputy sheriff in a black and white was shot and murdered, brutally murdered, doing nothing except stopped at a red light. Having unarmed people go out when we have violence in the community is really not safe for those individuals. The DART team, we have a domestic abuse response team. $3.7 million annually is spent on that. Now, neighborhood empowerment. $3,811,035 is what they dedicate for neighborhood empowerment. For, in other words, neighborhood councils. When you talk about neighborhood empowerment, neighborhood councils, they're putting over $3 million a year. Where is that money going? It's not enhancing the neighborhoods, but that money is there supposedly for the neighborhood councils. So when you go on the list and you see the list goes on and on and on, LA's $13 billion budget. Then the budget for this year is $13 billion. That's what the budget is. And you think with $13 billion, we'd have a safe city with nice sidewalks, nice streets, and everything would be working properly. And sadly, where does the money go? I don't know. But in 22-23, the budget was $11.8 billion, and it went from $11.8 billion to $13 billion. Those are tax dollars. Are you getting your money's worth here in the city of Los Angeles? I don't think so. I think most of you would agree that you're not getting your money's worth. So if you're a neighborhood council representative, you have an allocation of funds. Those funds are supposed to be used for the community. When I was a charter commissioner, I was pushing for communities that want to have events. You don't have to go through city council for permits. Let the neighborhood councils decide. Let them make the decision if you're going to have an event in the community and give some money to fund it. But the neighborhood council has been totally diluted because downtown City Hall wants to maintain all the strength, all the power. What they need to do is let it go to the community. Neighborhood councils were established because of secession and the concern about Valley wanting to secede from the city of Los Angeles and form their own city. Well, it didn't happen, but neighborhood councils was the result. They are really not appropriate. They're not using the appropriate tools that they have to really represent the community as they wish. And I know sometimes they pull teeth to get people to run for those seats. But that's supposed to be the first choice, and the choice, you want to do a block party, neighborhood council. You didn't have to go to the city council and write a motion and do all that. It should be localized, and that's what the neighborhood council is all about. We talk about crime. I've been to Nordstrom right after they had the first smash and grab. They had a second one after that, and it's interesting that Target cites violence and theft as reason for closing 9 stores in Northern Cal and up to Oregon. They're closing 9 of those large stores. Now, that doesn't only hurt the tax dollar, but it hurts the people who are working there, that they won't have a job now. But crime situation in Los Angeles and California, with the current status of the elected offices that we have, are not working. Our district attorney is not working. You have a deputy in uniform in a marked vehicle who gets murdered, and the district attorney Gascon is not filing a death penalty on that case. He doesn't believe in that. So because of that, everyone's in jeopardy. And what we have is a situation where people vote for idiots, individuals, not knowing what the agenda is. And the agenda with Gascon is idiotic. He doesn't care about prosecuting people. And what we come up with is more rules, more regulations, more imposition on the taxpayers. They just signed another one, the California governor raising taxes on guns and ammunition to pay for school safety. Why did they reduce the number of school police officers if they want to have school safety? They dump the officers. They don't have the 24-hour protections they used to. And now he adds another tax to guns and bullets, saying, and it's easy to say for school safety, where's that money going to go? More money in the budget of the state of California that disappears. So keeping our city safe is what's it about. But we can't do it without the people's support. And when it comes to voting, let me tell you, I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I vote for a person. I could care less what party they represent. What are they going to do to represent my concern for safety and for a quality of life in my community? And if you were to take a poll of LA police officers who retire, I would venture to say that 80+% leave California. They go to other states where they feel comfortable, where they feel safe, and they get out of California and they get out of Los Angeles. The cost of living here is astronomical. The quality of life is reducing every day. We got great beaches, we got great mountains, we got great snow when it shows up. But the problem is we got very poor leadership in Sacramento. And I'm not going to comment on the relationships at City Hall, but the bottom line is you're not getting your money's worth. And that's one of the key issues. Until people rise up and do something about it, it's going to continue to plummet down the road, as we're seeing more and more violence, more and more concern. And talk to a police officer when you see them. Ask them, what do they think about the situation? And have them leave the body cam off where they can give you their personal view. And you would be amazed at how they can be candid. But the rule is you talk to someone, you're in age, you got to activate that body cam. And now they're even analyzing your voice control to see if you were using an aggressive voice or a voice to propagate something. It's absolutely absurd. But what I have found, being a native of this city and living in this city my whole life, it's not what it used to be, and it's bad, and it's just getting worse. So my cost of gasoline goes up, my cost for food goes up, and all my friends that leave the state, they say, we don't have to pay a tax on our pension. We have, if they live up in other states of across the country, there's no tax on the pension, no sales tax on certain items you purchased. So the bottom line is, I'm not going to draw a rosy picture when it's not a rosy picture. And what I speak here is what I write in my column, Rants and Raves. And there'll be an edition out this Friday. It's in the Valley News Group paper, Kathleen Sterling's papers, and you can also see it online. Rants and Raves, Dennis Zine. And I can go on for hours and hours and hours, but I'm going to answer any of your questions and hopefully inform you of what you can do as a taxpayer, as a resident, as a person who really gives a damn about your community. And I'm sure many of you have thought about leaving California and going to a state where you feel safe and your money goes a lot farther than it does here. So with that, I'll be open for questions. Thank you very much.
Well, Dennis, I'm exhausted.
Me too. Me too.
Holy smokes. First of all, I see why you do a rant and a rave, because you're good at it. That's for darn sure. Obviously, there's a lot of things I think that we need to take a deeper look at and see if there's some things that I think we all recognize that things are pretty well messed up, not only just here in our community, but throughout not just the country, but probably the world at this point. And things have changed. The whole concept of kids being out there and doing these violence, the smash and grabs that they're doing at this point, the fact that we don't punish them, I don't know what, there's not an easy answer. I'm sure that's not going to be the case, but let's talk for a moment about the smash and grabs that are going on. First of all, in your career, have you ever seen a lot of this before? Is this a new thing, or is this?
Johnny, we used to have a thing. We had a thing called shoplifting. And shoplifting, if you got caught and you got arrested for shoplifting, your second and subsequent offenses were a felony. Shoplifting now, unless it's $950, it really doesn't count. So you can go in and steal what you want. $950 is a lot of money. But when you see these shopkeepers saying, what can we do? And the state legislature is working on a law that's going to make it illegal for you as a shopkeeper or your employees to stop people who are trying to steal. In other words, you have to hire a security guard, more money. Now, what is a security guard going to do? What is the opportunity to make safe? They don't want you to protect your own property. It's absurd, but the smash and grabs have grown out of the opportunity because our district attorney, Gascon, is not prosecuting people. And they don't believe in prosecuting people. And if you're a uniformed officer and you're shot, you're not in a gun battle. You're not trying to arrest someone. You're sitting in a police car stopped and some guy comes alongside and fires a gun and kills you. And you're not going to file death penalty on that because the man says he's got some mental problems. Well, you get all the mental problems he has, but somehow he's driving a car and somehow he has access to a gun. Well, there's a situation that we have to say enough is enough.
Yeah, it certainly seems to me that to give the death penalty at that point at least sends a message of nothing else. If it turns out that he's got a defense of insanity, that's the defense to the murder charge.
Exactly, but at least file the charge and let the defense deal with it. Do it. You're a prosecutor. You're the district attorney of the county of Los Angeles. Your job is to prosecute, to protect people when you don't even file the charge. In addition to that, the state has given millions of dollars to district attorneys and police agencies to go after the situation that's taken place in the retail. Gascon refused the money. He refused money that they want to give him so he can do prosecution on the smash and grabs. I mean, it's absolutely, if anyone, and I brought it, that comes out this Friday in the autumn, the article, if you're going to vote for Gascon, you need mental help. And I gave the phone number for the San Fernando Valley County Mental Health. You definitely need mental help if you're going to vote for that person. Honest to God. And I'm very serious about that.
He went up for recall on it twice and was able to stand up against that.
Well, the second recall, I'm part of the second recall. That's in court, and we believe, and we found out that the voter register has given false numbers as far as registered voters in Los Angeles County. We have reviewed that. We spent $6 million on that project. We believe that there's enough signatures, valid signatures, to qualify. Now it's going to be interesting if it qualifies at the same time that they have an election. I think there's 9 or 10 people who've already lined up to run against Gascon. I hope he does not get in the runoffs.
Yeah, Dennis, that's an interesting point about the voter rolls. We've fought with that for, I know when I worked on secession for the Valley, the voter rolls were inflated dramatically by not being cleaned up. People have passed away, people have moved, what have you.
Right.
And there generally was not any kind of a procedure in place to really cull through those voter rolls and get rid of the deadwood, so to speak. Forget the pun there, but to get rid of those people who just no longer can actually vote. And it is causing problems because when you come up with these petitions, in order to be able to qualify, you have to have a certain percentage of those that are registered voters, or those at least that have voted in some of the past elections too.
But San Francisco had a DA just as bad as Gascon. They were able to recall the DA in San Francisco, and Gascon came from San Francisco. Let me give you a little history. Gascon was LAPD. He went to Arizona to become a chief of police. He went to San Francisco to become a chief of police. Then he was the DA of San Francisco and decided to come down and kicked out Jackie Lacey, who was a wonderful DA who did a great job, very professional. Jackie Lacey, an African-American female who was a Democrat. Why would you want to kick somebody like that who's doing a fair job? He kicked her out.
Did you know Gaston when he was on the force at all?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. He wasn't like this way. He drank poison somewhere along the way.
So he was different back in those days. He's a different person now as far as you're concerned.
He's totally different. It's like he had a cranial transplant or something. He's no longer what he used to be. I mean, he rose to high command within the Los Angeles Police Department, and then he was a chief in Arizona. Then he went to San Francisco, and Gascon appointed him as chief there. And then he became the DA. And then he said, "I'm going to come down here." Everyone says, and I think it's documented, George Soros, who's the evil empire, has funded his campaign, but Soros wants to overturn the criminal laws in the state of California and throughout the nation.
All right. Well, coming back to the smash and grab stuff, we know that there's not much that Gaston's going to do about it. Is there anything that a property owner can do about it, or anything that we can do about it as citizens to protect ourselves? If we're there, let's assume I'm in the women's department over there looking at purses, and all of a sudden these guys come in. What do I do?
Well, Johnny, I don't know why you're looking for a person in the women's department in the first place.
For my wife. For my wife.
I'm glad you clarified that. What you should do is be a good witness. The bottom line is you're not trained, you're not armed, you should be a good witness. And when they have 30 people going into Nordstrom's, Macy's, whatever, remember they've hit in Northridge, they've hit in Canoga Park, they hit all over, but they hit in mass. What they do is they case the place, and then they send their people in. And I don't know, they're obviously males, I would assume, by the movement they make. And they go in, they're masked up, they got the hoods, they go in, and they know exactly what they're going to do. Now, when I look at Nordstrom's, for example, here in Canoga Park, why don't they put the high-end merchandise on the second floor? No, they put it right next to the exit door. And if you drive by there now, you got a black and white sitting out there. It's
With
what's
nobody
called
in it.
a decoy car.
With
That's
nobody in
what
it. It's just a toy car.
it's a real car, but they put it as a decoy car. But the
I got
bottom
you.
line is, if you got a security officer, and they had a security officer there, and what happened is they came in, they sprayed him with tear gas. He couldn't see. He was armed. He couldn't see. So they disabled him. But when they come in mass, and you got 30 people, and they're grabbing anything and everything, and it becomes mass chaos, and all of a sudden people, oh my God. And then they run out the door. They got the car standing by, they jump, and away they go. Now they got a task force set up with the U.S. Marshal, the FBI, the Highway Patrol, LAPD sheriffs, etc. They've gone after a few of these people. Now they're not buying these items for personal use. They're buying these to sell. And I don't know where they're selling them, except on the internet, but they've got a task force that's been established, and they got more money that's been put aside by the state to local agencies to continue getting these. But if you don't have prosecution, that means there's any consequence, then it's going to continue to happen indefinitely. Again, shoplifting, the second was a felony. Now, unless it's 950 and these smash and grabs, what are they filing for prosecution? Are they sending these people to jail, or are they giving a slap on the wrist and say, be a good person, don't do it again?
What's your gut feeling about people carrying a pepper spray with them and those type of situations?
I advocate people carrying a gun. I carry a gun. My boys carry a gun. Everybody's
Well,
licensed.
let's talk about that for a moment. If people to get concealed carry permits, if there were people that were in that location with concealed carry permits, they cannot shoot those people because you can't use deadly force. Somebody stealing property.
You can't use deadly force. It's a robbery. Force or fear makes it a robbery. I would not suggest using deadly force against those folks because society will turn against you. Oh, they're only stealing clothes. They're only stealing a purse. Society looks at this as you're going to be the bad guy. I wouldn't do that. I'd be a good witness. I would be a good witness if you can see the car, the license plate, or whatever the case may be. I talked to the chief in Beverly Hills because Beverly Hills is very, very concerned about safety. Every single intersection in Beverly Hills is under video surveillance. Every single intersection. Beverly Hills is teamed up with private armed security. They work hand in hand to enhance security in Beverly Hills. And what Beverly Hills Police Department does is when a hot call comes out, they launch a drone to get there before the unit. Now, Beverly Hills is a very small 5 square mile city. I think it's 5 square miles. And they launch a drone to get there before the unit. Beverly Hills is very concerned. Their city council votes for public safety. Their city council provides public safety. Unlike Los Angeles City Council, where you got 3 council members that vote against the police contract. 3 members said, we don't want the police to have a contract. Well, those council members, I hope, get defeated in the next election. I'm doing everything I can to get rid of those people.
Dennis, when the smash and grab over at Nordstrom's, those cars that came up, there was about 50 people. They had a number of cars that came up. All of them had the license plates off of them. And it seems like them pulling up that location. That should have been a key to somebody there going, there's something wrong here. They should be able to put some kind of blockades up or some kind of gates that can come up, some bullets that stick up out of something they could be able to do rather than going here, take it, put the insurance company claim in and raise everybody's prices later on.
Well, what you see in Northern California, they're shutting down. The stores are just shutting down. They're saying we've had it. They're going to shut down, which means those jobs are lost and people won't have an opportunity to go shopping. But the fact of the matter is, it's not once or twice. It's happening. It's happening in the Valley quite a few times, and it continues to happen. They've got a task force. They got all these people. They've arrested a number of people, but there's a whole lot more people out there that are doing it, and it may not all hit the news, but it's become commonplace. It used to be shoplifting. Well, no, there's not shoplifting. This is smash and grab and take anything and everything you can, and then they go and they sell it. So it's become a business for some people.
Can you add any fuel to this? I'd heard that over at CBS that the people were coming in there and stealing stuff out, but they were just kind of the mules, if you will. They were being paid a couple of dollars to go in, steal the stuff, bring it back out, and dropped it in this guy's car, and he took off. And he was the guy that was actually making the money and selling it. Are you seeing that going on, or is that just rumor?
Well, no, I would not. I haven't seen it personally, but I tell you, I went to a motorcycle shop. I had to get a motorcycle battery, and I was in there shopping, and I saw 2 individuals in there shopping, and I saw them carry an item out of the store. And I asked the clerk, I said, did they pay for that? They said no. I said, are you doing anything about it? They said no. I said, you going to call the police? No. Well, the last time I went in there, I bought an item and I went to the cash register to pay. I said, what if I don't pay and just walk out the door? You going to do anything? We're not going to do anything. You can just walk out the door. I said, why don't you do anything? Because we're told not to do anything. We're told not to approach. If you want to take out the door, we won't stop you. I said, here's my credit card. I'm not going to steal. But this is the policy that many corporations have. We don't want you to get hurt. Don't do this. And the bad guys know it, but when they go in 1 or 2, but when they go in with 30, 35 people, they swarm the place because by the time you realize it, oh my God, we're being swarmed. And you don't know what to do. By the time you call 911, they're in the car and they're out the door.
Maybe they got to redesign some of the stores like they do with jewelry stores, where you have to buzz to get into an area, and you got this little area, and then you got to stabilize that. Then you got to buzz to get inside the door, and to get out, you got to go through the same thing. Maybe they have to have this kind of double locking system on some of these stores. I
Well,
think the idea of putting the expensive stuff upstairs where they can't get to it is probably better.
if you go if you go to Ralph's on that Victory near Fallbrook, the laundry soap is locked up. You got to get a ticket. If you want something, the pharmacy is locked up. You got to get a clerk there. I went to believe it or not, I went to buy some shoe polish at Walmart. I had to get someone to come over because it's locked up. The shoe polish is locked up. I had to get somebody to come over to open it so I could get shoe polish to shine shoes. I mean, that's how sad it is. They're locking up shoe polish. Where does it end?
I wish we could figure out how we got here. Maybe there might be some of an answer how we can get out of it. But I don't know what it is, other than eventually being able to say that there's consequences for your acts, and that's going to be. I think that's going to start only with that's going to start. I think with the DA's office first, and then I think it's got to filter back down to the police departments. Listen, I know and kids, never happened to me, that if you went and you were shoplifting or something, and the police showed up at that point in time, they dragged you home by your ear to your parents, and your parents gave you a big wet floor. You weren't going to get a record on that one, but you're going to get certainly a good spanking if nothing else. And you knew you weren't supposed to do it. It was no, and no sometimes is the answer.
Back then, there was a matter of honesty. There was a matter of, you wouldn't say Jane or Smith, or you wouldn't say Shelley. You would just say Mrs. Schwartz or Mrs. Jones. Or you show respect is gone. But the bottom line is people are getting away with it. And we have a question here from Shelley.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I think we all agree we're going in the wrong direction, but starting October 1st, a judge has ruled that we're going back to zero bail, and it's not just zero bail. And she made the claim that will make us all safer. It's that the officers now are even more restricted. They're being told to just cite someone and release them right then and there.
Right.
Second, if it's maybe a more serious crime, come down and be released. And then the third is a magistrate will decide. And they're quoting studies that this is all going to make us safer. What kind of insanity is that?
You know what? It's the politicians that create these. I read that article, and that's going to take effect. So in other words, you get stopped for something, you're going to get a ticket in the field if you do get stopped. But by the way, officers aren't writing tickets for speeding or reckless driving. They just don't do that anymore. Because every time they do, they're accused of discrimination, racial profiling. So they just don't stop people and write tickets. If you look at this ticket production, it's in the tank. But that's the new rule. So it means that you commit a crime, you get stopped, you get a ticket, be on your way. Worst place, you'll go to the station, get booked and released. So in other words, they're making it easier for the criminal element to continue. And what are they going to do with that ticket? They're going to throw that ticket away. I had a person call me, their son got arrested for drunk driving. And they wanted to figure out how to get a public defender. They went to the court. They couldn't get a public defender. He got a ticket. He didn't get booked. He got a ticket for drunk driving. We used to put him in jail. Then they have to bail out. They don't even do that anymore. So it's not going to make it safer. It's going to make it tougher for us, the law-abiding citizenry that use the public highways.
Well, it's getting crazy, and it doesn't seem to be easy answers to it. Talk to us a bit about the homeless and your experience with the homeless when you were out in the streets. It's changed now from what it was 10, 20 years ago.
Well, you know what out there, Johnny, here's what the homeless is. The homeless is a cash cow of your dollars to fund organizations. That's what the homeless have become, a cash cow for organizations that are receiving millions upon millions of dollars. But as long as you got drugs that are legalized, you're going to keep legalizing more drugs. These people are addicted, whatever the drug may be. They don't want to work. They can't work. They can't hold a job. And then they keep coming up with these crazy ideas. Ventura, across from Taft High School, let's buy a couple of hotels and put people in. That's not the solution. The solution is making people accountable and responsible. So Karen Bass, our mayor, comes up with these billion-dollar programs, and we keep on pouring more money in. But why is it that we pour money in and it doesn't get better? And let me tell you about the homeless count. The homeless count is the biggest farce in the world. I've been involved in every single homeless count. Every single homeless count, you go out in dark at night, driving down the street, and you make an estimate, is this a homeless place or not? You don't go out and talk to the people. You don't actually see the people. What you do is you throw the numbers up in the sky and they go, oh my God, homeless went up 20% or 10% or whatever. The homeless is a money grabber operation of tax dollars that's proving nothing to benefit anyone. The homeless, it doesn't benefit. It doesn't benefit the taxpayers. All it does is continue the trend of homeless. And they're out here in Woodland Hills. They were only in certain areas, but now they're creeping further and further into this area. There are some communities that don't permit them. We don't enforce the laws. You see them parking on the street where it says no parking. There's a hotel on Ventura Boulevard. They were there for a long, long time. They finally got rid of them, but they're a nuisance. They're a hazard, and they're a disgrace to society. But the common sense approach is not used. And what they've done with the police is basically stand down, don't do anything, don't cite. So what we have is a circus, and it's billions of dollars that they're putting in, and it's not solving the problem. If you had the problem solved, you say, wait, we're investing something and it's making it better. But it's not. It's making it worse.
I know in the money stuff, we're a bit upset about the fact with the 818 facility when it was being converted over. That was tax money. That was about $38 million thereabouts that bought that facility, and it was deeded over to the foundation. That,
right.
Not let's lease it to them for $1 a year and see what we need in another 2 years or 5 years. But they got a deed on that thing free and clear for some $39 million or 33, whatever it was. It was a lot of money. It was the bottom line to it. It doesn't seem like there's any real oversight on any of this stuff of what's being done. It seems like everybody just wants to pay money to feel better about themselves that they're doing something when they really aren't.
Well, they're pacifying. They're trying to pacify. But look at LA $13 billion budget for 23-24. $13 billion, and they're spending over $1 billion on homeless. That means all those organizations, they're jumping on and they're getting that money. Are they solving the problem? No. But they keep getting paid and they keep putting more money. Every year they add more money to this homeless fund. It started with the stolen shopping carts, and the stolen shopping carts just expanded. Now you go to Home Depot and they're stealing the carts that they use to move the big items. And no one's doing anything about it. It just continually gets worse. And then approaches your neighborhood, involves your neighborhood. Then you say, my God, we're going to sell our house and move.
What about Judge Carter down the federal court with his restrictions?
He's frustrated. Judge Carter is very frustrated. I think they come up with a solution finally. Maybe that'll have some remedy, but I doubt it. I mean, when I look at the $13 billion city budget and how the city is treated with the $13 billion, it's a joke. They're spending about
$13 billion is $13 million. So that's a lot of million dollars.
Yeah, and you think the sidewalks would be fine, the streets would be fine. But listen, you go to other communities around Southern California, and they don't have any of these problems. So I blame the political structure that has tolerated this. And what they do is they handcuff the police so the police can't do what they need to do. Don't be aggressive, de-escalate. Okay, so we'll de-escalate. In other words, we'll put our hand in the stand and just walk away. And that's not the way it should be.
Look at Calabasas. How many homeless people have you seen when you've gone to the comments? It's kind of a shame. Listen, there's some people that need some help. That's a different story. And it used to be that the churches, the synagogues, and the mosques would take care of those people that really needed some serious help. They'd find housing for them. They'd find education, and find jobs for them, what have you. This is different. This is just a bunch of freeloaders sometimes are coming out here, and I think that we're spitting in the wind. It seems like, and not doing anything. Right. Is this possible solution to this to go back to the state legislature and get them to change some of the laws on this stuff? Well, or do we just accept that we're lost?
This state legislature is out of touch. This state legislature is really you don't have a balanced legislature. Its state legislature is really out of touch when it comes to things. They don't really focus on the quality. Let's legalize more drugs. Let's make it easier. Let's tell the police don't enforce this and don't enforce that. These people are either mentally ill or on drugs. Anyone who is not on mentally ill drug, they can find some help somewhere. But when you have a drug culture, this is what happens, and this is the result. Why is it this doesn't happen in Ventura County? It doesn't happen in Orange County because you've got different rules that are enforced. Here, it's very lackadaisical. Instead of being aggressive, they regress. Did you have a question, Marvin? Marvin, you had a question?
Marty, go ahead with a question.
The question I had is it time to reconsider, I don't want to use the word seceding, but for the West Valley to just basically gather up and say, we're tired of this, we're getting ignored, we're not getting any benefits to the tax money we're paying, and we would like to create our own city, maybe even join Calabasas and Agora and create another city and get our own police force and actually somebody that'll take action.
Here's what I would say you could do. You could actually do this. Yeah, I don't know if it would work, but you could say we want to annex to the county of Los Angeles, which are a part of the county, and we would join Calabasas. We would join those cities in Ventura County that are policed by the sheriff's department. That would be an easier approach, I believe, than trying to secede the whole valley, because you got so many parts of this valley that wouldn't do that. But if there could be something, but I don't know if the city would want to give up any of it, because you got a tax base. When you look at Woodland Hills and Tarzana, you got a very high tax base where the taxes, by the way, they're trying to modify Prop 13 to screw the homeowners. That's the next thing they're working on, to modify Prop 13. But if you could do anything to secede, I don't think that's going to work, to be honest with you. But I think if you try to do something with adjoining community that's already established with the Sheriff's Patrol, to join that, and they are part of LA County, and they have a service they get from LA County, the fire and the Sheriff's Department.
Dennis, that's an interesting statement. Do you think that the Sheriff's Department is a better policing organization than the LAPD?
I wouldn't think they're better. I think the problem is the handcuff on the Los Angeles Police Department. The officers are handcuffed by the procedures that they administer. The whole de-escalation theme. In other words, every time you stop someone, are they African American? Are they Latino? Are they this? Are they that? It's like you're afraid to do anything because someone's going to say you're profiling. I'm not profiling. I'm stopping a person who's speeding down the street at 90 miles an hour. I don't care who they are, what they are. But when you make a stop, you got to, before you activate the car, the red light siren, you got to activate your body cam. I'm stopping a car. It's a white car with 3 males, and you got to give it a, you got to say all this in the tape before you even stop the car. So when I'm talking about progressive versus reactive, the officers, well, you know what? They'll just drive on by.
You know, you mentioned something before about the difficulties that we have because we're out here in the Valley area. You as a council member, you know, we got like 5 council members out in the Valley. There's 15 council members totally. The rule had always been that unless you're going to get 8 of those council members to vote for you, can't get anything done. How much of a frustration was it for you as a council member to get the things done out here in the Valley that you wanted to get done with that rule of 15 and the rule of 8?
Well, I really never had a problem with it. We didn't have the magnitude of the problem we have now, but I would work with my colleagues, and we didn't really have issues. What I did, I formed the posse, Community Safe, and the posse, People Organized for Safe and Secure Environment. We worked with the police, the fire department, Department of Transportation. We went and round up abandoned cars, whatever the case may be. We would do our own program that we would utilize the resources, and I would oftentimes, through the general city purpose funds, pay for that. So we didn't have a problem where we had homeless. And when I started creeping out here, I said, man, this is terrible. And I talked to Bob Blumenfield, our councilman. Hey, Bob, we got a problem. He said, I'm working on it. The problem is it's become so cumbersome with the procedures you have to go through. When I was out there, we didn't have those problems in the process. There was homeless, but they had not creeped out to the West Valley when I was in office. Not to say that I was able to solve all the problems, but we didn't have people living on the street and doing what they are now. That was not the case in the West San Fernando Valley. From Balboa to, my district was from Balboa to Valley Circle and from Mulholland to Roscoe. Now, everything from Ventura to Mulholland was great, all residential. Everything from Ventura up north, we had issues that we had to deal with in the community. We dealt with those issues. And it was, I said, the council is a 7-day a week. If you want to be a council member, you got to be there 7 days a week, and your life is what the community wants, period. And you know, anytime you had an event, I was there. Didn't care what the event was. I was there representing, giving the search, because that's the commitment. You don't see that commitment today. It doesn't exist. It's like, I'll be there Monday through Friday, and if I can fit in my schedule, okay. If not, well, forget it. I'll send a staff. It's easy to send a staffer. You didn't vote for a staffer. You voted for the person. That person needs to be there and show their support for you and to be there. And when I was running for controller, I was still going to council every single day. And people, boy, you're running for control. I said, yeah, but I'm committed to what I was voted for, to be the city councilman. So anyway, that's what happened.
Did you say that looked like corruption when you were there in city council at all? That were you aware of the stuff that was going on, like with Ridley Thomas's stuff? Was that somebody, you know, people whisper around us? What's the story with that? Why the heck did that get started?
The time I was there, I had no idea that Englander was corrupt or Mark Ridley was corrupt, and I served with those people when I was there. I had no idea. But you know, when you're going to Vegas and doing whatever you're doing in Vegas, or you're cutting deals with SC because your son gets kicked out of the legislature, as we know what happened with Mark Ridley Thomas, he still won't admit any guilt. He's going to jail for 3.5 years. Jose Huizar, who had all kinds of money, because what's happened is he was dealing with developers downtown. I didn't deal with downtown. I dealt with the West Valley. When West Valley was being the Topanga project, Westfield, when I met with them, and Peter Lorre and the people from Westfield, these were the rules. I didn't get anything extra from them. Believe me, nothing. If you look at the campaign funds, they gave me like $500, which is what the minimum was. They didn't say, "Okay, we'll give you $10,000 to get you in office." I never did it. I never asked them. I never got it. I was very cautious. I didn't bend the rules or anything like that. And I could have said, well, look if you want this, I didn't do it. It wasn't my style.
Did you find that developers would come to you with that kind of an attitude though, where they're going to try to push you
No,
someplace?
because I made it well known that I was a cop. I was a cop, and this is you don't even try it. They never even tried it. To be honest with you, they never tried. I never asked for it. It never got to that point. I never got. You couldn't take airplane flights for free. These guys took airplane. You can't do that stuff. There's a code of ethics and there's rules you follow. All you gotta do is follow the rules. Keep your nose clean. If you want to go out to lunch, we'll go out to lunch. Was I having expensive lunches? No. Well, I go out to lunch, but it wasn't expensive lunches. What's a hamburger and fries cost? Well, it was a lot less then than it is now, to be honest with you. But no, I never got involved in that stuff.
So Dennis, question.
Go ahead, Marty.
You paint a pretty awful picture.
It is.
And bleak for the future. What do you suggest we do, the homeowners, business owners, do to change this thing around before it becomes too much like a devil's island?
Well, we are heading that way. I'm not trying to be dramatic, but if you look at where we were to where we are, you've got a police department that's basically been neutered. Officers cannot do their job. Every time they do something, they get criticized, they get ridiculed, they get suspended. There's so much concern, and they wear a body cam to protect themselves. And then when they look at the body cam, now they're analyzing your voice. What the hell does the voice have to do with it? You told the guy to put his hands up. He didn't. Put your hands up. It's called professionalism, and you're commanding an individual to comply. If it's a little kid, hey, Johnny, come over here, and let me tell you, don't cross the street over here. You have to conduct yourself based upon the surrounding and the circumstances. If you're facing a murderer, you're not going to, sir, can you please put the gun down so I can arrest you? Sometimes you have to be aggressive in your tone of voice. But the bottom line is they've hurt the cops so much and they've beaten them up so much. Why do you think they can't get anybody into the LAPD? They don't want to join police work. Black Lives Matter didn't help the police image. They didn't help it at all. George Floyd didn't help the image of law enforcement. So what happened is they backed off and backed off and backed off. And now there's no respect. How many times you see these street races that go on, or they do these spin outs in the middle of the intersection and the cops are there and they intimidate the cops? There's no the respect is gone. Bottom line, respect is gone.
It seems like most of the representatives, most of the city council people who represent South LA and East LA have come down pretty hard on LAPD officers.
Yeah. And
they want to get rid of them. They want to replace them with these ambassadors.
Yeah.
Do you think that it would be advisable for the city of LA to start partitioning police officers and say let's say it's the Black community. Okay, fine. You don't want the police? We're going to pull them, and we'll give you the money, and you can use it to hire your own ambassadors. But when your crime goes up, you're going to have to deal with it, and you're not going to be able to call on us.
Here's the problem. Here's the problem. And I've worked Black community. I worked 77th. I worked Southeast South. I've worked every division of the city of Los Angeles. I worked the rich area, West LA, Brentwood, Bel Air. We got Rolls Royces and Mercedes Benz, and I worked the poor areas of the city. You got a lot of people in the poor areas of the city that are very supportive of the police, but they can't say it because you got the gangs, you got the problems with the gangs that really terrorize. And every time they want to make a complaint, they make a complaint against a police officer. Then you got three knucklehead, what I call them crazy train council members, that vote against the police contract. They voted against giving these folks a contract. What do you think their attitude is? And one of them's Nithya Raman, who represents part of the Valley. She voted against the police officer's contract. And I'm doing everything in my power to muster money up to make sure she can get defeated, because there's a deputy city attorney who's running against her. You can't have people in political office in this day and age that don't support law enforcement. And there's three of them that voted against that police contract. That tells me very clearly they do not support public safety. And what West Hollywood did, they tried to dump the number of deputy sheriffs and bring in ambassadors. Ambassadors are very nice if you say, where's La Cienega? Where's Melrose? Where's this street? They're not armed. They don't carry any weapons. They're there to give you direction. I've ridden the Metro before, and I don't ride it without a gun because it's not safe. There's been drivers attacked. There's been people stabbed and killed on the transit system. And I talked to the officers who work the transit system because that's their contract with LAPD. They're told by the leaders of MTA, don't do this and don't do that. What do you want us to do? We don't want you to upset the people. Well, these people are committing crimes. We have a code of conduct. Don't enforce this code of conduct. Then someone gets murdered. Oh, enforce the code of conduct. You can't go back and forth. Well, you don't charge for it. Let's charge. Let's waive the fees. Don't waive the fee. It's a ping pong ball. Bottom line is you got political, not leaders, political people who don't grab reality. And what they do is they set policy. The people who set policy are the ones you put into office. And if the Valley were to say we want to secede, which we're frustrated, our community's falling apart, property value is high, people say we can't afford. Well, you know what? If I can't afford to live in Pacific Palisades, I guess I have to find another place to live. But the bottom line is we got to change and bend and everything to appease everybody else. Not everybody's going to be able to win on this, but they take it out on the police. And the police are the ones who are always getting criticized, always getting brought up. But when you have elected officials that say, you don't deserve a pay raise, you don't deserve a contract, that's gone over the top. And that's why I'm saying Nithya Raman at the top, and she represents the Valley, that lady's got to go. And anybody who votes for gas guns got to see a psychiatrist, because that man's doing nothing except cause more crime in the county of Los Angeles.
Anybody who has any questions, put your hands up. We're more than happy to take questions from the gallery as well on that. Dennis, it seems like that the city council is again not like it used to be. That there's some schisms that are going on. There's factions that are going on, and nobody seems to have a sense of what the direction is. I'm getting the feeling that a lot of those council members that used to, the ones that have been around for a while, that they're just kind of keeping their head down so they don't get in trouble at this point in time, and kind of letting some of these other people run roughshod over it.
Well, what you need to do, what Dennis needs to do, is galvanize your community to say, we're going to get behind someone who's going to represent us and fight for us. There's a new council member that took over for Bonin. She's a wonderful lady. She does a great job. She's speaking out. That's what you need, is people who are going to be there to support you, the law-abiding citizens. And if a person's breaking the law and they're doing illegal activities, like up in, I think it was Granada Hills, where this person was renting out their backyard for all these motorhomes. They had no sewer hookup, and they were there destroying the community. Finally, I think it was John Lee that got on board and took care of that. John Lee's another good council member. But you got to get people who give a damn and who are concerned. You folks hold the power. You folks hold the money. You're the ones who vote on these issues. And if you vote to increase our taxes because they're going to give you a song and dance, so you know what are we going to get for this increase in our taxes? What are we going to get when you get elected office? If they give you a song and dance, and if I was you, I'd have the council member come before these people as often as you can make it. Make it a bi-monthly thing. Got to come in and face the choir. Because if they don't, they're not going to feel the pain and the torture. And they need to see what people are experiencing, how they can't afford to go to work because they can't afford the price. You're paying over $6 a gallon at certain places for gasoline. It's outrageous. What has the city council said about it? They've said nothing.
And now that you mentioned it as well, they're coming after Prop 13. They're changing the rules, or want to change the rules on what they're going to do as far as being able to tax. If you think things are tough right now, wait until that comes through. If you vote for those tax bills, you're going to find not just your property tax, but everything else is going to go through the roof, because it's not going to take a 2/3 vote to be able to get through. We dropped it for LA Unified School District stuff, I think, a couple of years ago, but they want to drop it for everything now at this point, and they're coming after your finances. They want your money, and they want to be able to do stuff with it. At $13 billion, are we really getting what we deserve back? And now they want to get more at this particular point. I think we need to be heads up and really pay attention to what's going on with that. Dennis, a quick question to you on this one. Chris, I see you got your hand up. We'll get you a second. The state legislature has been doing stuff thinking about the homes with Senate Bill 9 and 10, where they're taking over the local control away from us on what we're doing with development and taking it up to the state and trying to do a cookie cutter that everything will be done the same way. And now they want to get rid of all the single family homes. They're just disgusted with the fact that we have that many people on that big piece of property. You got 2 people there and they can't stand it. And now you can put up apartment buildings on that by matter of right, without going through all the clearances you used to have to before under those props. What do you think is going on, and what can we do about trying to support these legislations being changed? And were you able to, as a council member, have any kind of an influence on what was going on in the state legislature?
Well, when we had a balanced legislature, see, when you got men and women, you got Republicans and Democrats, you got people who are, you want this and I want that. Well, let's come to a compromise. You don't have a compromise anymore. One party rules the state, and that's the problem. There's no compromise. This is what we want. And what you're talking about, Prop 13, that's going to create a huge problem. But ADUs, they got ADUs going up everywhere. I live in a single family residence here in West Hills, and all these garages in my neighborhood are being converted. So the street that used to have a couple cars now has a whole bunch of cars because one person converted the garage to an ADU, and then he converted the front yard to another ADU. So this house sits in the back, and he's got 2 ADUs in front. So he's collecting rent, which is great. But look at the resources that go in to make that happen from a single family residence. But all they want to do is pack as much as they can and get more money and more money and money. Again, when I talk about the city budget, this city budget of 13 billion, it's going to go higher next year and next year and next year, because every time they build on, that's more property tax. Every ADU, more property tax. So the politicians, and they're only there for 12 years, and then they go. State term limits have, I don't know if they've done any good or not, because you get somebody who's good and they're going to get, and somebody who's bad, they're going to go. The bottom line is the people are getting the shaft because Sacramento is controlled by one party and you don't see the other side of the fence. And with the homeless population, the billions that have been spent, and Mayor Bass, all due respect, you can spend $100 billion. You're not going to solve the problem because it's not going to go away as long as you let it continue. And they're letting it continue. Behind the West Valley station, where I used to have my district office, they put these tiny homes. I don't know how effective it is. I've never been in there, but they put they put that in a quiet residential area. Is that where you want to put the homeless population, in a quiet residential area, in a parking lot behind a police municipal facility or a public facility? I mean, it's so frustrating, and it can be changed if people in elective office try to make a difference. But when you got people who say no on a police contract, that's the beginning, and you got a city controller that's part of that. All of a sudden the erosion takes place, and then you say the only way out is to move out.
Let's take a question from Chris Rowe. Chris, you're open. Let's get a good question from you. Go ahead, Chris.
Well, first of all, I want to say that I really appreciate it when Dennis was our representative in West Hills. As he said, Dennis lives in West Hills, and he used to have the district to Roscoe, but now all of West Hills is controlled by John Lee. So I want to thank Dennis for his service for West Hills.
Thank you.
This is the question that I have for you, Dennis. Are you still the city manager of Bell Canyon?
I was for 8 years, and I retired from that. I had 8 years, and that was enough dealing with rich people.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Well, bottom line is, one of the things that I'm concerned about is, because of Sheila Kuehl's influence as our former supervisor, the current LA County Board of Supervisors wants to sue to clean up the Santa Susana Field Lab to the strictest level. And that is really going to impact our communities of West Hills and Woodland Hills. Yeah. And the 4 neighborhood councils, Woodland Hills, Warner Center, West Hills, Chatsworth, and Canoga Park, all voted that they wanted a risk-based cleanup. And what these people are pushing is a background cleanup. And it's not even going to start probably for another. I mean, they're doing work there. Don't get me wrong. They are doing some work there now, but the major work won't start till 2025. And they're talking about a project that could last another 25 years. What have you got to say about this? Because I remember, Dennis, you used to have someone named, I believe his name was Cliff or Clint.
Cliff Ruff.
Wonderful man, and he knew a lot about Santa Susana. So
interesting. Cliff Ruff moved to Oregon. He got out of town. He moved to Oregon. He's retired from LAPD also. No, Cliff Ruff, very nice man. As far as that, Johnny, you mentioned this facility at Van Owen, the old Hughes, where they tore it down and they was going to go to a residential. There's contamination. The reason they didn't get rid of it, they couldn't build there. It's much contamination. Same thing with Santa Susana. There's a lot of contamination up there. Once they start moving that dirt, that contamination is now going to then spread throughout the whole valley. That's a problem. I don't think, and what the builders want to do, they want to build it. What they'll do is, like Northridge, you got everything north of the 118 freeway. That used to be all beautiful, pristine land, and now it goes all the way through. They built millions, thousands of homes, high-end homes, but they're going to do the same thing at Santa Susana. That's what's going to happen if they get that cleaned out. They can't do anything at Van Owen because it's contaminated. So I don't know what they're going to do with it. But the fact of the matter is, if they start disrupting that dirt and that pollution is going to take over, and who knows how many people are going to get cancer out here, because I understand a lot of people in this community do get cancer. So
You know,
I don't support
it's tough on
doing
that, Dennis. I don't think people recognize that, for example, at the Rocketine property, that if they're going to develop that in whatever fashion, if they have to take that dirt out of that to clean off that location and get a certificate for it, they've got to truck that someplace. And
Yeah.
that's going to put a lot of dirt into the air, a lot of particles in the air that may cause problems with a lot of people. That got, listen, I know after the big earthquake we had back here, the valley fever that went on, I got it too. Both my ears blew out during that time. It's strange what's in the soil down here and what can possibly be ignited by that type of activity. So we have to watch that. I mean, that's a big piece of property. Something's going to happen with it at some point in time. And for all of us out here, we need to keep watching that as well on that.
You're right, but I know Chris Rowe's been involved in that for a long time.
Yes,
I
she
commend
has.
her for the activity she's been involved in that, but it's a real issue. But you know, the developers want to build, they want to make money. They want, okay, we create jobs, this and that. But the bottom line, what about the health and safety of everyone else that's already here?
Yeah, I got a question for you on the city council aspect. How does the general community get through to the city council member? I mean, obviously, I know how to do it and what have you. I can usually get there pretty quickly. But generally, when the people call in, they're going to get somebody. They're going to get somebody, an intern, usually at the beginning from high school or something, that's going to answer the phone and doesn't really know where they need to be transferring the phone to. How does somebody actually get a hold of the council member to actually talk to them, or can they? Do you have enough time to where you can actually take those calls?
Well, what you have to do is you have to fill time in. You got to have an open house. You got to meet a coffee. You know, I remember when I first got elected, I used to meet people for coffee and say, okay, you know, tell me what the issues are, and they would tell me the issues, and I'd say, okay, let's fix this, let's fix that. They've got council meetings. They don't meet every single day. They don't meet all day long, all night long. They're there for you. What you need to do is make an appointment, or a number of people make an appointment, or have them to your events. Say, we want you to come to this event. Well, I'm busy this week. Well, what about next week? What about the next week? Don't let them dodge you. Pin them down to say, we want you to come to our community and meet with us. We have some issues, concerns. We respect your staff. They're wonderful people. We want to talk to you. You're the person we put into office. We want to talk to you. You got to pin them down. And maybe Bob Blumenfield is more cooperative than others. I know some of them don't want to meet with constituents. But I don't think Bob would be a problem meeting with people, because I know him pretty well.
Certainly to us on that. Did you find that there was resistance to you as a council member to be able to use the bully pulpit to speak out to other departments? For example, trying to get council members to get on the case of LA Unified School District to do something about properties that are out here and have them, in essence, make a statement about what the people here want the LA Unified School District to do. There's a crossover between those parties, if you will. Did you find that there was an unwritten rule going, you don't cross over lines, or that people just didn't want to do it because they wanted to step on any toes and get in hot water?
You know what? I stepped on toes to get things done. That was the bottom line. I'd have an issue. I call Brad Sherman's office. I'd like to speak to the congressman. This is Councilman Zine. He gets on the phone. We talk. Brad, this is a problem. We need to get resolved. Okay, we'll look into it. Get back to you tomorrow.
Out of curiosity, did you ever have problems getting a hold of them to where they kind of, they kind of shoved you off?
No. I had general managers that I'd call into my office about an issue. There was one day, I never forget, I was at City Hall, parked my car, and there was a mail bag with a bunch of mail sitting in the parking garage at City Hall. And I look at this and I say, this is mail. The whole mail bag is there. City mail bag, not from the US Postal Service, but city mail bag. So I called the general manager that's responsible for that. John Muckery was the man's name. And I called up and I said, I want you in my office right now. And he says, well, I'm in a meeting. I said, well, I'm going to be here until you get here. Well, he showed up. He comes up. He had a broken leg. He's limping into my office with a broken leg. And he was obviously uncomfortable. I said, look at John, this is what I found. Your people are responsible for this. It's just sitting down there. Somebody just left it there. You can't do this. So I felt bad for the guy because he had a broken leg. Yes, he got in the office and I, told him, hey, you're the man in charge, fix it. But when you're a councilman, you wield a lot of power. You wield with general managers. I had general managers in my office that asked for things. And I'd say, okay, I'll support this. I won't support that. But I had a relationship with these people that, we're working for the people. The bottom line is we're working for the people. That's what we're here for. They're paying us to do a job. Let's do the job. So I never had those problems. Maybe because they knew I carried a gun. Myself say I didn't intimidate them, but I always carried a gun just to make sure I was safe.
Tell me about neighborhood councils. Neighborhood councils back in the days, back when we're starting secession movement. It came in, I think, through Ritten's thing, trying to basically get rid of all the homeowners or groups, and and change it over to a neighborhood council as an advisory group to you guys. And they did pretty well with it. I know that back in those days, I even wrote up some of the original bylaws for our group out here. Tell us about some of the history of what went on with the neighborhood council, what it was supposed to do, the effect it had with you, and what do you see their role now being, and how can they be more effective in the community?
Well, I think they're struggling, to be honest with you. I think a lot of people have given up. I think they've just thrown in the towel, say, you know what, it doesn't matter, nothing's getting done, and they get frustrated. I think that's what's happened. I always liked the neighborhood councils. Being a former charter commissioner, my focus was to give these people power. And like I said, if you're going to have a parade or something, don't have the city council deal with it. Let the neighborhood councils deal with it. Let them decide if they want to do this in the community. If they want to block off a street for a block party, we don't need to go through public works. Let them do it. Give them that responsibility, give them the resources, let them do that, because we have other things we can worry about. In other words, my focus was give the neighborhood councils authority, and not to trespass on the groups that are homeowners organizations, but work with them, but give them funding. You know, it's nice to say you have a title, but give you funding so you could do something with the title.
They don't have that power now, though.
Pardon me?
They don't have that power now, though.
I don't know what power they have, to be honest with you. But when I was there, they had power and they had fund. They gave them a stipend. They didn't give them money. But when you look at, they have a budget. They have a huge budget for the neighborhood councils. Do you know how much that budget is?
I'm not sure. I think it's about $3 million a year or something like that.
It's 3,811,035. Yeah, 3.8 million dollars. They got 99 of them. $3.8 million. That's a lot of money they could spread around to get things done. But at the same time,
Dennis,
yeah.
You know, there's like 97 neighborhood councils now.
I thought there's 99. Wasn't there 99?
Yeah, maybe. Okay, so it's 99 neighborhood councils. When you start spreading that money out, they're getting $33,000 or $32,000 a year. Back in the day when you were a city council member, it was $50,000 a year. And with all the inflation and everything, that $32,000 is more like $20,000 a year. They've really tied their hands.
But you know,
that's what's happened.
But it's not like they don't have money to spend and to appropriate when you got a budget of $13 billion. You know, like the Department of Aging gets $16 million. What does the Department of Aging do at $16 million? I mean, we're all going to get old. Look at Johnny Walker, $16 million. Animal Services, $31 million. Building and Safety, 148. It's like, where does it end? They got money. It's how do you appropriate the money? So that's the key. You got to spend
appropriation. It's the use of the money too.
And in fact, if you give it to the neighborhood councils, you could relieve some of those other departments from what they have to do, because they'd have the money to spend how they want to do it. But then again, you have to have a city vendor. You have blah 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 blah. You got to pay premium wages. There's all kinds of stipulations they put on it, and that's one of the problems, that neighborhood councils should give that money and spend it properly, account for it, and do what you need to do for the community. I mean, they keep on talking about we're going to fix the sidewalks. They've been talking about that for years, and the sidewalks are a freaking disaster.
Talk to us about Prop 13. We got a question that came in. Want to know more about the Prop 13 issues and the attack that's going on with that. What can you tell us about the history of that? You know, we go back to Howard Jarvis's stuff when Prop 13 first came in and trying to protect the homeowners from getting their property increased. What's your take on that? What's your background history to it, and your gut feeling about what they're trying to do and who's doing it?
It's another money grab by the state of California. They want to get more money, and they think this is the appropriate way to do it, just like the millionaire's tax. They try to find every single possible way to raise your taxes. It doesn't matter what it is. They want to raise your taxes. And what they do with that money, is we know what the state does, is now they're in a deficit because they squander money. And the state has a huge budget. They squander it. I would not do any modification with Prop 13. I mean, taxes are high enough. We're not getting our fair share of services as it is. And all they're going to do is take more money and squander more money. That's what it comes down to. They will squander the money. Do not support any tax increase or any modification of the Prop 13. And if they got a millionaire's tax, if you're a millionaire, you make so much money, or if you sell property over a certain amount, you're going to pay an extra tax. They do everything imaginable to take money out of your pocket, because they just want to have a huge fund of money. And that's why a lot of people say, you know what, we'll go to another place where we don't have to deal with the homeless and the problems, and we can live more comfortably and have more money to spend to do what we want to do. So I would say any attack on Prop 13 is an attack on residents, whether you're living in an apartment or a house. It's an attack on you.
And listen, if they're gonna, it's not just on homeowners, they're gonna raise taxes on other things too. They're trying to cut
Everything.
the
But
number
just
of
like
votes over there.
just like the millionaire's tax and the
Yeah.
property, it keeps going. It's going to go up anyway, but they just want to make it a super increase.
Yeah, and if it goes up on commercial properties too, you can expect that the things you're gonna buy from that commercial property are now gonna go up. They're gonna pass it on, and we're gonna end up costing us more and more, no matter what ends up happening with that. Curious as to whether or not you had if you ever dealt with your state senators and state representatives, and how did that go? With again, we got this problem again of it's a one trick pony legislature. They're
Right.
all of one party, and nobody's really bargaining for anything. Did you have any difficulties dealing with both the state senator or the state representatives, or did that ever really come up?
Well, not really. I had relations with them, but nothing of significance. Everything I did was community based. It was all community stuff. I never dealt with, I've been up to Sacramento and dealt with that. But I mean, my focus was what's right for the people. It doesn't matter if it was a Jewish holiday, I'm at the temple. If it's a Catholic holiday, I'm at the church. If it was a Hindu holiday, I'm at the Hindu temple. You name it, I was there. They couldn't tell what religion I was because I was there everywhere. I had the kippah and I was there, and I was at the church. So, what religion are you? I'm a multi-religious person. I go where the services are. So I never had problems because my agenda was, what do you want in the community? That was the bottom line. Like they just put diagonal parking on Ventura Boulevard. They've been talking about that for years, and it gives it that concept of a small town. It's probably going to take a long time until people get used to it. I don't know if they've had any crashes yet, but anytime you make a change, it's, oh my God, what's this about?
Well, Dennis DiBiase did quite a bit of work on that, one of our board members, and to his credit, a lot of that design over there is from the hard work that he put into it. But it did take years, and it was like pulling teeth to try to get the monies for that and get that financed on that. Dennis DiBiase, Dennis D, did you want to have any comments about that over there and the effect it's going to have?
Well, yeah, I just want Dennis Z hit the nail on the head. It took 8 years for something like that to happen. And there's still another phase, and that's the more exciting phase, actually, the beautification phase. And our current council member has said that before he's out of office, he's going to be turned out. That he wants to finish that project up. It'll be great. The diagonal parking, reverse diagonal parking has been controversial, and some folks have given me credit for coming up with that, which I did not. I didn't even know what it was at the time. But a lot of folks are using it. So a lot of folks are using it. I drive down there, and there's folks that are comfortable with backing into parking spaces. So some other folks will get used to it. We'll see how it goes.
But Dennis, you know what you've done? If you raise more money for the city, because they put a whole bunch of more meters up now.
I know. It was 24 more parking spaces along that strip, and I'm just trying to raise money for the city. That's what I was trying to do.
That's 24 more meters that are up. People collect.
Yeah. Dennis, that's an interesting point that most people don't know. Where does the money for those meters go to? Does it stay out here in the West Valley for the roads where it's been picked up, or where does that money go out of those meters?
To be honest with you, the DOT has their budget. How they disperse that money, I don't know what fund it goes to. I mean, they collect those quarters and dimes, et cetera, on the credit cards. I don't know how they appropriate, but the Department of Transportation, they have that. Their budget is, let's see, where's DOT? DOT is Department of Transportation. I can't see it here. I'm sure they're a multi-million-dollar budget.
I have no doubt about that, but it seems unfair that it takes 8 years to get a project like that going, and with all the hearings that went on with that, all the public outreach that went on to him, it was like just almost overkill in a lot of ways, and it's pretty crazy that it takes that long to get anything done.
Just so you guys know, the things that happen behind the scenes, the fire department pushing back at everybody, and the Department of Transportation, and the way it is, Dennis, the way it is, all the different departments with different opinions and things. It took forever.
Well, one thing about it, when you talk about Bob, he's going to be terming out. He's working on that project on Sherman Way where they're going to do the thing with the sports team, et cetera. And I remember when we opened up Westfield, when the grand opening took place at Westfield, and I was the one that worked on that for all those years. I was out of office and Bob was up there, and I'm in the audience looking at him and saying, I'm the one that did all this stuff, and you're there, which is exactly what's going to happen. There was a pool on Shoup. We did a pool renovation at the park. Same thing. It was Bob was now the councilman. I had termed out, but I was there and I got thrown in the pool. But it was interesting that things he's working at Madrid Theater, they're doing the Madrid Theater up on Sherman Way. When that's finished, he's going to be out of office. So whoever takes over is going to be the one cutting the ribbon. Well, wait a second, you had nothing to do with this, but it's the timing. That's how long it takes to get things done in the city of LA.
Taking it across the finish line.
That's right. Exactly.
Dennis, talk to us about the Rams coming in and the properties they've got. As a group may know, they have purchased the Kronsky company, which owns the Rams, have purchased the village. They own the village now. They purchased the property for the promenade, and they've also purchased the property for the Anthem building. And our last meeting we had back in June, we had the Rams out here to show what they're going to do for their practice fields. They're not doing anything with the other properties now. They're everything's just kind of sitting. Give us your perspective from your council perspective, the few councilman's perspective of what's going on and that development that's going on and the use of that properties out there. And what's the best use? What do you think is going on? What's your take?
They're definitely going to convert a lot of the area. They're charging for parking now in that lot, that empty lot, that the old Macy's. They put up signs all over the place. They're charging to park in that particular facility, but they've got a master plan. But it has to go through so many different bureaucratic channels before they break ground. So they're going to take. Are they going to turn down the Anthem building or convert that to their offices? I know that they have a plan going forward, but it goes through so many departments before. I would say it's going to be a couple of years before you see anything start. You got to demolish those facilities, then you got to scrape the ground, then you got to start the construction. They're still debating what they're going to do with the property and how
they're doing something rather interesting over at the Anthem building. Putting the practice fields, they're going to do an extension or an addition onto the Anthem building, so they can put about 30,000 square feet addition on that without tearing the building down and do anything with it. And then they can put in what are sort of temporary facilities to use for their practice, for their coaches, for the weight rooms, for the projection rooms, and that type of stuff. And they can hopefully get started fairly soon on putting in 2 fields out there for practice fields. But they're not going to be open to the public. They're basically going to be practice fields that will be used for them. So
it's going to take some time. I know they're in Thousand Oaks now, their facility, but this will bring them closer. But it's going to jam the freeway. Whatever they do, people are going to want to come and see it. So the 101, which is already a disaster, it'll just get worse. Out here in the West Valley, it's, I travel east to get to that location, but it's going to be a compliment to Woodland Hills, to Warner Center. It's going to add to that environment. And I know they're being very supportive of the Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber's met with them on different projects. So a lot of good things are going to happen. I mean, the Macy's closed up a long time ago. Maggiano's and Ruth Chris will be leaving. I don't know where Maggiano's going to go. Maggiano's is a beautiful inside that restaurant. I don't know what they're going to do with all that, but soon it'll be level. But I'd say I mean, nothing happens in the city quick. It all takes forever. It takes forever to get to that point.
Give us your take on the movement that's going on from the city to try to get rid of our gas appliances and everything go over to electric and get rid of our gas cars even at this point in time.
Well,
where do you see this all this stuff going?
I think it's another disaster. They're going to put the gas company out of business. They want to shut down Aliso Canyon, so that'll put them out of business. And then who controls the power? If you don't have solar, who are you going to get your bill from? The Department of Water and Power. They're already a multi-billion-dollar operation. So now you're going to have your dryer, your water heater, your stove, everything's going to be electric. If it all plans out, I think all new construction is going to require that. So it's just going to be more money for the Department of Water and Power, which is I don't know how much their budget is. It's huge. It's a separate budget. But that's what's going to happen. You have no choice. You won't be able to have any gas. Your water heater is going to have, when you have to replace it, that's what's going to happen, not to tear it out. Your stove, you have to get an electric stove. So it's another aspect of the city compelling you to do something, not by choice, but mandatory.
Can you shed some light on DWP on the budget areas? It seems that DWP sometimes charges more than what it should on stuff, and then the city council uses that kind of as a cash cow to go pull money back out of that whenever they need it, even though it's supposed to be coming back to us in the way of reduced rates. But it seems the city council wants to pull it out. What was your experience back in the days with DWP and the budget?
Well, I'll tell you what, DWP and the airport and the harbor.
The airport and the harbor, yes, all three.
They have lots of money. I know that anytime you took a trip, it didn't come off the city budget. It came off the airport, the harbor. There'd be other departments funding. So the funds would come from the port, from the airport, because they have a lot of revenue. So there was a if you start looking at the travel expenses, who's paying for it? It's coming out of those agencies. As
But
far as
that doesn't seem to be fair when you look at it. They're supposed to be, supposed to be giving us appropriate rates for just what it's going to be costing to have our electricity done. But yet
Right.
they kind of a slush fund that's being used for other things. Is that a fair comment?
I wouldn't know say it's a slush fund. I think they describe it in more terms, the more bureaucratic terms, not a slush fund, but funds to accomplish the public good.
Okay.
Hey, John.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I have to excuse myself. I just wanted to thank Dennis for attending tonight. It's been very eye-opening, and I appreciate his coming, and hopefully he'll come back another time.
I'd be happy to.
And I'm not having you sign off. John's in charge, but I have to leave. My alarm goes off on this building in about 5 minutes.
And get yourself a good, safe drive home. We're just about to finish up anyway, getting close to the 9 o'clock hour.
Yeah.
One more question that came up here about Ruth Chris. It looks like, just so everybody knows, Ruth Chris is moving over to the old Fridays location. That should be coming up fairly soon. That building is there, but I think that will pretty much close up everything that's going to go on over the promenade at this stage. A little bit worried, Dennis, about the property over there and whether or not that's going to end up being an attractive nuisance to homeless and others, because there's really not much that's there. It almost seems like the LAPD now almost has to monitor that and spend their time and their money on that, when that really should be something that the Kronsky company should be taking care of to make sure that it doesn't fall into bad hands.
We already have homeless at the bus stop that they have, the Warner Center bus stop that they have.
Yep.
We're already homeless camped out there, and they
Yeah,
come
no
and go. So anytime you have vacant property like that, it's a nuisance. But LAPD used to have a detail that would assign that, but they have so few officers, they've had to pull those details that were dealing strictly with the homeless. And that's the problem. They're so short of units in the field that they've got to pull all those resources out. So it'll just be another disaster for the Woodland Hills community is what it's going to be.
Well, listen, it's tough no matter what we look at. And, it's like herding cats. It's kind of difficult to get everybody in line to do the stuff they need to do. Somebody comes up with an idea, and by the time the idea gets fleshed out, the people have moved, or they've moved on to the things, or they're out of office, or what have you. And it seems that the developers just kind of wait us out a lot of times on this stuff to try to get the stuff done and wait for you to get out of office. They find somebody else that they go tag.
But I would tell the viewers that your senior lead officer, that's the key person, whether it's Sean Denzi, who I know very well.
Yep.
Very concerned, very committed. His dad was LAPD also. You need to communicate with your senior lead. You got an issue, you got a problem. Don't waste your time calling 911 or the non-emergency ever. Get a hold of your senior lead. They're the ones who can really put effort to make some changes. They're very effective in making changes. You just need to communicate with them and meet them for coffee or whatever. They're available to do that. The more connection you have with the senior lead officer in your community, the better off you'll be resolving issues.
I think that's great advice for everybody here, and I should do some more of that too. What's your feeling about Neighborhood Watch and people joining Neighborhood Watches?
You should join Neighborhood Watch. You should obviously, and know your neighbors and let your neighbors know. You go away. Some people, I can't believe it. I was at a chamber event earlier this evening, and the lady said, "Well, I'm going away. I'm posting that." You don't post that you're going away. You post, "I'm going away for 2 weeks." You don't post that. Then some bad guy said, "Oh, that house is vacant. Let me go burglarize it." You don't do that. You tell your neighbors, the neighbors you can trust, obviously, watch my house, pick up my mail. But some people, this whole internet deal, social media, don't tell the world you're going away. Don't let people know when you're home or when you're not home. And if you want to get a CCW, LAPD by law now has to issue permits for CCW. I'm not advocating go out and get a gun. I'm just saying you don't have to go to the county anymore. You can get it from LAPD because they're required by the Supreme Court ruling. And they just passed that new tax on bullets, etc. But the fact is, if you wish to have it for your personal safety, because response time out here is not what you consider very, very quick.
No, it's not. Do you have any idea what it's taken for the CCW permits to get issued?
It's a few months. It's a few months, but I know a lot of people who used to go to the sheriff, but now you have to go through. If you live in the city, you got to go through LAPD, but they do issue them. And I would suggest if you want one, get one.
And just for those that are concerned about that, it does require quite a bit of training to it and being able to get qualified on it and understand how to be able to use the weapons and what have you. It's not just, here's a piece of paper, go get yourself a gun. There's a lot more that goes to that.
There's a lot of liability. If you're going to carry a gun when you're going shopping or whatever, you got to be very cautious. And I'm not advocating get it, but if you need one, you want to get one, you got to go through LAPD. You can't go through the county anymore if you live in the city.
Actually, the lawyer me says very quickly, you cannot use deadly force to take care of anything other than to respond to deadly force. If somebody's coming after you with deadly force, then you can use deadly force. Other than that, you cannot use a weapon in order to be able to protect your property. That doesn't work. And you see these people standing outside of, like a Nordstrom's. You're not going to see armed people outside of that. You cannot use a gun to protect the persons inside. That's not going to work.
That's
But
right.
listen, the LAPD police officers is a good profession. They're honorable profession. I've known many of them in my lifetime. I've sued the LAPD on a couple of occasions when there's a couple of bad apples. That happens, and they need to get cleared out of there. And I have found that in my line, if there was that, they're happy to get rid of them. They don't want them around either because they cause more problems than not, and are a liability to everybody at that point. So these things are important to us for safety. Dennis, we thank you for the service that you've given to us, both as LAPD, but also as council member, and also as the ranter and raver that you are, of keeping us informed of the stuff that's going on. We hope that you'll come back with us and do this again and give us updates on these particular things. I think you've given us some insights that we didn't have before on a lot of stuff on how the sausage is made in a lot of ways. And that's important because we're going to eat this stuff from time to time. We might as well know how healthy it is for us and what we can do in order to make it taste at least a little bit better.
And that's lapdonline.org. If you want to get the crime statistics, etc., you punch up lapdonline.org, and then you can pull up the crime stats, and it's a citywide profile, and you can find all the stats, burglaries, robbery, you name it. You can find everything, and it'll even pinpoint down in your block. So
that sounds good. I'll try to put that up online so everybody will have that as well up on the website.
Yeah, that's the website.
Yep, Lesson. Thank you much for your participation. Thank all of you too that came in with us tonight. We know that we got bumped down a lot by the debates for tonight and what have you. But those of you that are here are truly the ones that are protecting our community because you want to know what's going on and you want to be able to help, and we appreciate that. Those of you who are not members, please join us. Those of you who are members and know of others that are not, please come and join us. We need those numbers. Those numbers help. The council member recognizes that, and we've been out here since 1985, and we keep doing stuff and trying to work to make the community better. If you like what we're doing, join us. We'd love to have you with us. So in the meantime, Dennis Zine, we say good night to you. To the rest of you as well, good night. Have a blessed evening and be a safe one.